Friday night, Madison Square Garden, raucous atmosphere. What more can you ask for? It's UConn St. John's. We'll preview. This is Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On UConn. I am Matt Schonvisky, a two-time graduate, 10-year credential media member, and host of the only daily UConn sports podcast, Locked On UConn, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and thank you for making this your first listen each and every single day. On today's show, we are previewing tonight's matchup at Madison Square Garden as Dan Hurley met with the media on Thursday night. I'll break that down then. Dave Borges will join to give another look on tonight's matchup. And finally, who is going to own Madison Square Garden tonight in what will certainly be a wild atmosphere? But first, today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. So Friday night will mark on national TV, 8 p.m. tip, Madison Square Garden, the matchup between the top two teams in the Big East. UConn undefeated, of course. St. John's has that one loss on the year in conference play. And these two, it's the marquee matchup so far this season in the Big East Conference. And Dan Hurley met with the media on Thursday night talking about the rivalry. What does UConn St. John's mean for the conference, mean for these two teams? And he talked about how this is quietly one of the biggest rivalries in the sport. Proximity, fan bases, Madison Square Garden, it has all the makings. We know the history between the two programs going all the way back to the early 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and today. And now with Rick Pitino back and Dan Hurley driving UConn, these two are the flag bearers. UConn, obviously, the flag bearer of this conference. And they have responsibility to take care of their business because if you look across the rest of the conference, others are not holding their own. They're not living up to what they're supposed to be delivering for this team, this conference, top to bottom. So this is a marquee matchup. Big day, big night for this conference as a whole, for both of these programs, and obviously for UConn, who, if you look back at the start of this week, coming off that Creighton blowout win last Saturday night, the disrespect that came from the voters because of the close games that UConn's been playing in this conference and the perception of what this conference is. This is an opportunity for UConn and St. John's to showcase the talent that resides in this conference on national television. And it's two programs that have been there before. It's two fan bases that love going at one another. And to be able to do it in New York City on a Friday night under the lights on Fox, it's going to be a special atmosphere for sure. And we're going to talk more about that atmosphere and the fan bases and who's going to own the crowd tonight. Dan Hurley was asked, going back to the conference a little bit before we dive into the game, he and Rick Pitino were both asked leading into this game about do other teams in this conference need to start investing more in their teams? And Rick Pitino, to his credit, he said there should be a minimum within this conference. We're trying to be a power conference. We are a power conference. Just look at how UConn's carried the flag for this conference after Jay Wright's retired. And Pitino said there should be a minimum investment of $8 or $9 million a year for each of these teams. And Dan Hurley agreed. Because if we're going to be competitive on a national scale, and to not be viewed in a place that is an underwhelming look nationally, this conference needs to get its act together in terms of the programs that are in it. You want to be part of a top-level conference? Well, pony up the money and start investing like you actually want to be here. And these are some of the struggles that UConn is facing right now with conference realignment, of course, because of the perception of the program based on who they're surrounding themselves with within this conference. Now, this conference in the Big East has been spectacularly great for UConn and UConn basketball in this school. No doubt about it. The complete turnaround has been absolutely spectacular. But now that we have NIL, the rest of the conference needs to start investing in their success. It's just the way of the game now. It's just what college sports are. It's what St. John's has done. Invested in Rick Pitino, and you can bet anything you want that Rick Pitino has been investing in his roster. So it's a big opportunity tonight for the conference as a whole, putting on display nationally what these two teams are capable of. And then it's a top two matchup. So it's an opportunity for this team to really measure themselves on, hey, we've had some big wins here the last couple games. We're starting to play like we should. It's championship caliber level of basketball. Excuse me. And now where do they truly stand against the other top team here in the conference? It's a good measuring stick. I'm interested to see. The mentality needs to be the same tonight. The mentality needs to be, we're playing Arizona trying to avenge that loss from earlier this season. Each and every game should be that, regardless of the name on the other side, on that jersey, on the other side of the court. Strong mentality. It's going to be energetic. The team's going to be ready to go, obviously. It's a big matchup. PRIMETIME, MSG. No doubt about it. How this team reacts after the tip. I want to see hustle. I want to see everything we've seen in the last two games, because I know this team is capable of that each and every single night. And I think we're going to get that. So it's a big one, of course. We will be on air very shortly after the game, post-game, just giving obviously a quick recap, and then we'll have a full breakdown of the game, probably Saturday morning for you guys as well. Heading into this, we are going to be talking with Dave Borges in our next segment to get another perspective on tonight's matchup, and we'll do that after the break. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and for those of us here in New England, the Patriots-Seahawks matchup is something we've been looking forward to here the last couple of weeks. And FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Again, if you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Again, FanDuel.com to get started. To help preview Friday night's matchup with St. John's, bring in Dave Borges of Hearst Media. Appreciate you hopping in, Dave.
Yeah, no problem, Matt. Good to be here.
Yeah, we last talked, I think it was December 8th, heading into the Florida matchup. And UConn has not lost since. What can you say about the run this team has been on over the last two plus months?
Well, it's been 18 straight games is pretty impressive, no matter how you slice it. Now, you'll have some UConn fans who, were a little bit worried about the team kind of struggling to beat a few middling teams. Providence had them beat with 3 minutes left, and they ended up winning in overtime. Seton Hall almost came back from a big deficit. even going way before that, BYU almost came back from a big deficit. The UConn hasn't exactly destroyed a lot of the Big East, kind of the middling Big East teams that maybe people expect them to beat by more. But the bottom line is they've won 18 in a row, and their last two have been very impressive. At Creighton, which is, I don't care, the team may be a little bit down this year, but that's a tough place to play. Always has been for UConn. And then just running Xavier off the floor in Hartford the other night. So the last two games, they've really looked impressive. And but overall 18 games, that 18-win streak is impressive no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, you already mentioned the last two games. It seems like they're playing their best ball offensively now. And it seems like there's so many different options on any given night. It could be Braylon Mullins one night, solo ball the next. He's had some over the past 5 games. But to me, it seems Silas Demary now being comfortable running the show seems to have, on my side, what's brought this offense to another level. Would you agree with that, or are you seeing things a little differently from your point of view?
No, I do. He came in here, people, myself included, kind of made the comparison to Tristan Newton and the sort of the influence he could have on this team. And the thing that maybe some people forgot was that Tristan kind of struggled a little bit early on in his career here, his first year. Dan Hurley's offense is tough to learn for a guy coming in from a different school and different program, and takes a while. And Silas had a few struggles early on this season, a couple of off games. If you seem to remember the Kansas game, he didn't play his best. But there were a few other times. But he's really seems to have gotten the knack lately. And, yeah, it's coincided largely with UConn's improved offensive play. I mean, they seem like they're getting the offense now. The new guys, the freshmen, the transfers, they seem to be connecting on it. And the shots are falling, which always makes it look a lot better, too. So, Silas is great. I mean, he wasn't on the Bob Cousy Award midseason list, which, rankled Dan Hurley, and I think probably upset Silas a little bit. But I think right now, as we sit here right now on February 5th, I think Silas is probably the Big East Player of the Year. But a lot will be determined, when in the games against St. John's as well.
Yeah, and the way the ball is moving, it seems so fluid right now. And the unselfishness of this team, Braylon Mullins went off for 8 of the first 10 the other night. He could have forced a lot more shots that he had a hot hand, but he was more deferring to open teammates, getting the best shot. Just what can you say about that trait of him as a freshman, that he's able to take a step back and maybe not try to put pedal to the metal at times when he's got things rolling offensively?
Yeah, I suppose as you might expect from a kid from Indiana, he's got great basketball IQ, acumen, however you want to say it. He's not just a shooter. He gets it. He's a great passer. He's a good defensive player. He's athletic. He's long, and he gets it. He's a freshman. Even though he's not afraid to shoot, wherever he is on the floor, got a quick release, and he's not shy about shooting. But he also, like you said, gets the whole team concept. Understands that this is a deep team. I think you got to give Silas a lot of credit for that too. He sacrificed his scoring a bit this year to be more of a distributor, and really the whole team. It's a very unselfish team. Bunch of really good kids and good players, and that's what's led to a lot of their success.
Yeah, and front court play has taken a step forward as well during the last stretch of this run. Tarris Reed seems a lot more comfortable coming back from his injury from earlier in the season. Even Eric Reibe's gotten better as the season's gone on. Finally missed a shot after a few games going 5-5, 6-6. Just what do you think that both of them have added to this group offensively?
They give you that 1-2 center combination that was the hallmark of UConn's championship teams from 23 and 24. I'm not going to compare is Eric Reibe what Donovan Clingan was or ended up being. I mean, it's hard to say, but and Tarris, I think, has a lot of traits of Adama, but maybe I think they're different type players as well in some ways. But it's just Tarris, he was injured early in the season. It seemed to take him a little bit to kind of get back in the flow, and honestly, he hasn't really maybe dominated. Dominate's not the right word because I don't think you can. You're not going to have good dominant performances with this group. Maybe game by game you might, but you're not going to have a guy averaging 18, 20 points a game. So because of the unselfishness and because of the depth. So I think his overall numbers may not be quite as high as you might have expected, but ask any opposing coach, I think, in the league or in the country, he's one of the tougher matchups to go against on both sides of the floor. And Eric's been great. Eric, when Tarris was hurt, Eric played really well. And now in the last couple of games when Eric's gone to the bench, or when Tarris went to the bench, Eric came in and they almost put up identical numbers the other night, 14-7, 14-6 or something like that. So
yeah, and speaking of the bench, it seems like they're getting more and more out of those players. Malachi Smith the other night had 4 threes. Jaden Ross, I think he had 3 threes, bring great defense each and every night. Seems like now that the rotations are set, everybody's healthy, they're getting more from the bench each night.
Yeah, Jaden Ross to me has been a revelation the past couple of games. Dan Hurley really lit into him and Jalen Stewart after the Providence game a week and a half or so ago, when neither one of them, I think they combined to attempt four shot attempts on the night and didn't really do much. And Jaden had only hit 1 3-pointer in Big East competition all season. Had only attempted like 7 or 8. And he told them that, you got to be more assertive when you come off the bench. You're not just there to occupy space until the starter comes back in. You got to assert yourself and be a little more, not selfish, but selfish. Look for your shot more. And you can see that in Jaden the last 2 games. He was 3 for 4 from 3 against Creighton, and he was 2 for 2 at Creighton, I believe, and 3 for 4 the other night against Xavier. So 5 for his last 6 from 3 the last 2 games. Looks like has a real nice looking smooth shot, and he also gives you that energy and defense and athleticism as well. He's been and Jalen Stewart to me is so kind of like an unsung hero. He does not fill up the stat sheet at all, by and large, but he does so many little things, and that really help the team out. So yeah, the bench, a little bit of a question mark maybe during the stretch when they weren't really dominating, but I think the bench is still a big strength for this team.
Yeah, and looking ahead to Friday night, matchup between the top 2 in the Big East. 1 loss between them in conference play, obviously with St. John's, 10-1 heading in. Just what are you looking for from UConn heading in? It seems like mentally they're there from start to finish now, the last couple games at least. Is it about them having the right mindset, and then what are they going to face with St. John's?
Well, they're going to face probably I would say the best team they're going to face all year in the Big East. But, obviously they acquitted themselves quite well in the non-conference against some very good teams. St. John's has kind of reinvented itself after a poor start in non-conference play, and even Big East, they lost the home game to Providence back around early January, and they haven't lost since. They've seemed to, it looks like Dylan Mitchell. They went into the season without really a point guard, and everyone and Rick Pitino thought that wouldn't be an issue because it's kind of a positionless game right now. But he found out pretty quickly that he was wrong, and they've looks like Dylan Mitchell has kind of evolved into sort of a point forward for them, which has really worked well. He's a good player, good versatile 6'8" forward who can kind of start the offense up as a distributor as well. So, Azubi Ejiofor is one of the best bigs in the country. He's tough, really just really tough, good player. Their best player, obviously. And Rick Pitino's a Hall of Fame coach. You knew he was going to probably figure things out, turn things around. Both teams are playing well right now. UConn's probably playing better. St. John's has struggled to win a couple of games lately, but I expect a great. First of all, first and foremost, just an incredible electric atmosphere. UConn, they've put together 2 straight 40-minute games with it. There was no letdown, the killer instinct, so to speak, was there, and they got to just continue that on Friday night.
Yeah, and then we'll hear from Dan Hurley later today, previewing the matchup on Friday as well. Dude, really appreciate your time coming in, previewing Friday night's matchup, 8 p.m. tip on Fox. And enjoy the game. I'm sure you're heading down, right?
Oh yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow night, and should be a lot of fun.
All right, enjoy the atmosphere, and maybe as we head into Big East tournament time, maybe we'll have you back on as we go forward.
You got it. You bet.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Number 1 ranked UConn dominated Tennessee 96-66, turning a halftime tie into a historic win and avenging last season's loss by delivering the largest margin in the rivalry's history. AZ Fudd had 27 points and Sarah Strong added 26 as the Huskies remain perfect on the season, reminding everyone why they are the reigning national champions. In the Big Ten, number 2 UCLA rolled past number 8 Iowa 88-65, powered by 22 points from Angela Dukeledge and a huge advantage in the paint, staking their claim as a national threat. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Back in on this final segment of Locked On UConn, previewing tonight's matchup with St. John's. We're shifting gears. Dave Borges touched on that as he was closing out. The atmosphere tonight at Madison Square Garden. What are we expecting? Rick Pitino thinks there's going to be 10,000 St. John's fans, 9,000 UConn fans. Well, we don't exactly fit 19,000 in MSG, but we get the point. It's going to be like a 50-50, 55-45 crowd. And these are the games, these are the atmospheres that this team thrives on, right? We know that UConn certainly thrives on the experience and the atmosphere at Madison Square Garden. And it's Store South for a reason, right? UConn performs well at Madison Square Garden. They've won multiple games there this season, and they should be winning multiple games there later this season as well. So UConn's going to show up. St. John's going to show up. We know that St. John's is trying to take pride in what they're going to be able to do from a fan standpoint tonight. It's been talked about. This game had previously been rumored to be on campus, right? To avoid the situation where UConn's taking over their own home building. But tonight, we're expecting a live crowd. We're expecting a back and forth battle and a game that is going to suit the fans very well. You're going to see effort across the board. You're going to see a mindset from both teams that they want this game. They want to be able to take the top spot in the conference. Because, listen, UConn is undefeated. Yes, they haven't lost in 18 games. Yes, but St. John's has only lost one game in this conference. So regardless of how UConn's performed, if UConn loses tonight, St. John's has the head-to-head. So it's a big one for the top spot in the conference come tournament time. These two match up again later this season in Hartford. But for now, this is the game. This is the game that both of these teams have had circled on their calendars for quite some time when it comes to Big East Conference play. So crowd-wise, yeah, you know the atmosphere, you know the energy that's going to be brought. And I'm sure the trains will be packed heading to Madison Square Garden later tonight. Just like a regular Friday night in Big East tournament time, right? It's a preview of what's to come later on in March. We all know how UConn fans show up on Friday night at Madison Square Garden in Big East tournament for the semis. Expect the same tonight. That's what I expect, at least, from the crowd and the fan base here from Connecticut traveling down to Madison Square Garden. So it's going to be an electric atmosphere. If you are watching at home, it is going to be a raucous environment showcased over the airwaves on Fox on national TV. A perfect spot for this matchup, a perfect spot to showcase how UConn and the UConn fan base turns out in New York City each and every time that they are there. So we'll be back, like I mentioned, post-game to recap what transpires over the game. But for today, that wraps up today's show. As we close, please hit the like and subscribe button, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On UConn. If you are an everydayer and never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayerclub. Again, LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayerclub. As we close this week, again, I will be on air post-game following tonight's game at Madison Square Garden, and we will also have a full recap on Saturday morning to discuss what transpires tonight against St. John's. Keep an eye out for that. Again, elsewhere across the board, the women are back in action. We will be following that game closely this weekend. have a full recap of that one as well. And hockey programs are back in action as well. So we will be focusing on hockey too. Football continues to push forward for spring football. We'll try to have Jason Candle here on this show. We'll try to have Mike Cavanaugh here, head coach of UConn men's hockey, on this show. And then we're going to try to dive into getting some players on as well as things start to look forward for basketball towards the tournament and football kicking off spring football. So again, as we close, keep an eye out for post-game tonight, and we'll have a full breakdown Saturday morning. Enjoy the game tonight, and as always, go Huskies!